say, Johnny Green, here we are then, down in Laguna Seca, California. James Harrison the first reporting for Pathé News. West Coast California is the place, and this is the 1920 inaugural Monterey Motorsport Grand Prix. Alongside me is quite the chap who I've managed to find, Bobby Green, something of a restaurant raconteur, but also a car aficionado. Bobby, tell us about the Grand Prix. What's going on?
Oh, it's going to be a race of a lifetime, James. Welcome to the States, by the way.
I say, you American chaps really know how to put on a show.
Well, I'll tell you, half of these cars just fresh off the Vanderbilt Cup, ready to whip each other's butts.
And whip those butts they will. The number 9 car here looks like quite the go.
Yes.
What do we got here? Tom Malloy in the hot seat.
This is a locomobile. Locomobile is not meaning crazy, means locomotive. You know what I'm saying? So these were taken off of a train technology, airplane technology, but it's actually state of the art.
State of the art, it certainly is. And behind us, look out, here comes Brian in the 18 car. Now this thing looks like it's straight out of the aerodrome. That's some sort of aero engine we're looking at there, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Sturdivant aircraft engine.
Off to the start line then, and Ed Archer is the man. I say Ed Archer in the number 4 car. My eyes, I would say, would be on him. He's obviously gone off to the start line, and things start to quieten down a little bit here.
A little bit quieter down. This car's having little issues. Some of these cars have to be pull started when they don't want to crank start by hand. So they're going to pull start this car, get them out to the line.
Well, let's get them out to the line. I tell you what, here in the US of A, these chaps really are putting on quite the Grand Prix. 14 cars on the start line then for this inaugural 1920 Monterey Motorsport Grand Prix. Behind us, the number 13 car. He's a little bit late to the line, but that's old Brian there, isn't it, in the hot seat of that one?
Well, this is Beauregard Speedwell.
Beauregard Speedwell, what a chap.
Yes, and his Model T Whippet Speedster. And this car's quite quick. It's smaller than the others. This puts on a great competition for these guys.
How about that? Beauregard Speedwell in the number 13 car. He's getting a little bit late to the line, but I think he's on his way. Seems to be throttling with his left hand. What's going on here, Bobby?
I don't know. He looks like he's having a little bit of a problem. Uh-oh, it just died.
Wait a second. Beauregard Speedwell is leaping out of his car. If he doesn't get a move on, he's not going to make it to the start line on time.
I don't know. Oh, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on here.
What's going on here? Beauregard Speedwell seems to be taking his car apart. That's not the go, is it? Bobby, what's the script?
Look at this crew, though. I mean, these guys are so fast. I mean, this is the kind of pit crew you want to have in a moment like this.
I say it really is. These American chaps really know what they're doing on the wrenches. Reminds me of my time in the King's Own Fusiliers. We used to be able to strip a cannon in 2 minutes and get it back out onto the field, ready to go in no time. But these Americans, well, they really are next level.
They really are. Well, he's got about 3 more minutes to get up to the line, or he's not in this race at all.
He's got 3 minutes, folks, to get the car to the line. Beauregard Speedwell, the American ace, really needs to start moving fast. Something's at foot. I don't know what this is.
You know, something got in there, but it looks like they're going to find out pretty quick.
They're now taking the whole of the body off. Beauregard, what on earth are you doing, old man? I'm going to get in there. Let's go see what's going on. I say, Beauregard Speedwell, what's going on?
I don't know yet. We've got a problem with the car. It won't run. I got to get out on the track. I don't know. I can't talk to you right now.
He's got to get out on the track, folks. The race is about to start. These young chaps are stripping it to pieces.
We better leave him alone. He seems a little stressed out right now. And I would be too. I mean, if I only had a few more minutes to get to the line, everything's on the line with this race. You can see the stress in his face.
They're stripping the car to absolute pieces. The engine's off, the bodywork's off, and they're not stopping.
This would put an F1 crew to shame. I mean, imagine stripping the cars down today. This would never happen.
Well, in 1920, these are the chaps that you need if something is going wrong. These young men, they really are well trained, aren't they? Looks like Beauregard's got the maps. What's going on here? Axle stands?
Yes, it looks like they're pulling the drivetrain apart.
The whole of the drivetrain is coming apart. Gosh, I really don't know what's going on. And look at the crowd. The folks here in Monterey, California really are being treated to quite the show.
Wow, I hope a loose bolt didn't get inside that engine to cause some damage.
It must be a loose bolt, surely.
Probably something to that extent. I wonder if they're going to pull the engine.
They might be pulling the engine. Look, there's not much of the car left. I say, If you're just joining us, folks, wherever you are in the world right now on Pathé News, we've got Beauregard Speedwell, the American racing ace, stripping his car moments before the start of the 1920 inaugural Monterey Grand Prix. West coast of California is the place, and oh boy, it's a setting, but this is not what Beauregard needs. He needs to start getting a move on, doesn't he, Bobby?
He needs to get a move on real quick. But look at his crew. It does look like they're going to pull this engine.
They're going to pull the engine.
I think they're going to find out what's going on in there.
I'm going to go and speak to this chap. I say, young man, what's the go here?
Can't talk too much. 1, 2, 3.
Look at what they're doing. The engine is out. The whole car is being stripped to its component parts. There's an engine, there's axles, there's bodywork. They're putting it under the block. I've never seen anything like this. Surely that Beauregard is not going to make it to the start line on time. And now this old boy's getting involved. I say, old man, what's the go here?
I don't know, something's wrong with all.
Wait a second. What's that? I say there's a skunk in the engine box. Some crafty California critter's got himself somewhere he shouldn't be. Get that thing out of here.
I'll tell you, these farm boy racers, they get all kinds of critters in there. Look at this. This is what I call a cherry picker right here. Look at these guys.
Look at these guys. Well, folks, if you just joined us, quite remarkable scenes here in Monterey, California. Some little critter, a local skunk, must have come in off the hills, nuzzled himself somewhere warm last night, went to sleep, and that's the end of him.
Unbelievable. Well, we are in farm country, so it doesn't surprise me. And what a nice warm place to sleep. After the engine's been running all day, I'd crawl in there too if I was that skunk.
Well, I'd crawl in there too, but I tell you what, I think that skunk, he's gone. I'm not sure whether he's going to survive the day, to be honest. Thrown out of the workshop. Good riddance, I say. Now,
he would have got quite a thrill if he would have made it onto the track.
oh boy, wouldn't he just. Now, Beauregard, though, still has to get the car back together to get out onto the start line.
We got rid of the track officials, so we're okay now. We got 5 more minutes, we'll be out on the track.
Okay.
5 more minutes and you'll be out on the track. Beauregard's not going to make it to the start line on time, is he?
Well, we're already late, so because they're already running, we're not there yet. So we got to hurry up and get this thing back together so we can get there, you know.
You better hurry up and get that thing back together, old man. Luckily, you got these young chaps.
4 minutes.
You've lost 4 minutes. Look at that. 10:14 on the race clock here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. They're already going back together. Bobby, you're a bit of a car man. Have you seen anything quite like this before?
You know, not to this extreme. I mean, all the way down to the ground, nuts and bolts. But you know, Beauregard is a fast racer. I think he's going to catch up to this group.
This would be quite the deal if Beauregard could get himself back up to the main group, out there onto the start line, get the goggles down, get the foot to the floor, and start pumping some gas through the old cylinders, eh?
This is quite impressive, I must say. You've got to be surprised by this.
I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be with anyone else right now apart from these American chaps. These young lads really know their onions. Look at them go.
Yeah, these are the guys, if you got to go to war, you want to be with these kids right here.
Oh, for sure. How about this, folks? If you are just joining us, welcome aboard. Beauregard Speedwell, the American racing ace, has just found a crafty critter in his engine box. And now his pit crew are having to put the car back together to get himself out onto the start line. Remarkable scenes. Military position from these Americans really is bloody marvelous. Great show, great show.
Absolutely impressive.
All right then, look at that. There goes the radiator on front. Not much of an engineer myself, but I can appreciate what they're getting up to. Bit of a hose there. That's got to keep the engine cool, surely, Bobby.
Yeah, it seemed to have a bit of a quick disconnect, which is good for them to get that thing back on quick. If they can fire this thing up again, I'm really going to be surprised.
I don't think this thing's going to fire up today. By the time these chaps get themselves ready to go, the others who are out on the racetrack will have done their laps. They'll be back in.
Well, here comes the body. It looks like we're a few minutes away to find out if this thing's going to fire or not.
Well, we'll find out. Coffee and donuts to the others is what awaits, and I think they'll be dunking donuts before this lot get themselves out of the start line. Come on, Beauregard, the number 13 car. They say it's unlucky for some, and I think today it really bloody is.
I think so. I mean, we've got the black cat over the moon, a full moon, and a 13 on the side. So, well, apparently the skunk wasn't afraid of the cat, so.
Absolutely, sure he wasn't. There goes some sort of running board down by the old pedals. Come on, fellas, let's go. You've got to get to the start line on time. What's going on here? There's no bloody seats in it, old man.
Well, yeah, they'll be there in a second. That's what he's getting in the floorboard, so he's got a place to put his feet. Otherwise, you got to be Fred Flintstone.
He's going to be Fred Flintstoning all the way, isn't he?
No, he's not. He's going to put floorboards in.
Get those floorboards in. Let's go racing.
Another one here, that's the upper floorboard here, so he's all set now.
Look at this. Here we go. Come on, folks. Still got track time. We've still got 7 minutes of track time, apparently. It's not what we were expecting for the first ever Monterey Grand Prix, but what a start. Come on, Beauregard. Hey, folks here, clear the way. Make way for Beauregard Speedwell. I say he's going to go racing. Give him a cheer if he does it. All right. How about that? Come on, Beauregard. Get himself to the start line. Come on in, Bobby. How about that as Beauregard Speedwell gets on out to the start line. Well, Bobby, what a start to the first ever 1920 Monterey Motorsport Grand Prix. We weren't expecting that, were we?
Absolutely not. I don't know about you, but my money is on Beauregard today.
Johnny Green, back to you in the commentary position from myself, James Harrison for Pathé News down here in the paddock. What do you make of that, old man?
Absolutely scintillating. Well done, Kev. No one could do it better than you. I shall not do the Pathé for the rest of the Ragtime because you've done it way too well. But that was, I cannot believe a California critter could absolutely upset the Ragtime races as they did. But we've solved it and we've got it, and the Ragtime races are on track. Absolutely superb. Kev Harris at his finest. He lives for that, and I love it. Well done to you, Kev. That was totally impromptu, not rehearsed. Absolutely fantastic. Talking of not rehearsed, here's the man that needs no introduction and no rehearsal. James Alder, who is one of the participants here. We just saw him hooning round in his number 33 Jaguar from the early 50s, and he just joins me. I know he's got to go in a minute, but I want to get you on board. How was the experience, James?
Oh,
and what did you think of that little exhibition?
Well, that's absolutely fantastic, but that's just an example of the spirit that these people have in racing. I mean, it's whatever it takes. And it's the other thing that's so enjoyable about it is that the people that are involved in this, the mechanics, the drivers, they're completely focused on what they have to do. If they, whatever their regular job is in life, that's over. It's all about getting the car on the track, participating, and having the time of their life. And as you can see, it was 2 minutes before they were on the track. The engine was still out.
I know. I tell you what, Ferrari Formula One could learn a little bit.
Oh,
from
absolutely.
Them.
Yeah.
Might take their pit stops down a little.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Benotti. Oh, we're having some fun. National Indy Racer, the number 20. Look, you drive a 50s Jaguar in period, and I was telling everybody, I was regaling everybody about the fact that you drive it from home in Reno, Nevada. Just tell us, first of all, before we get to the Ragtime races, how you go about your racing, because it's something like in your time of racing that car, you've got something like 300 plus races?
Well, not quite that many. I think this was race weekend 159.
Wow.
This is my 40th season with the same car. And yeah, it's sometimes a little impractical driving the car to and from as the form of transportation, but that's how they did it. Well, that's how they did it back in the day. There's a mountain pass in between the Bay Area and Reno where I live. And at certain times of the year, it is subject to weather. I have gone over the pass in quite a bit of snow. But as long as you're moving, it's not so bad. And when it feels pretty bad, and I feel pretty cold, wet, and miserable, I remind myself that it's better than a motorcycle.
Yeah. That is one way of looking, or
right.
walking.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever broken down on the way?
I have. I have broken down a few times. Usually, though, if the car is able to leave the track on its own power, it will typically get me home. On a couple of occasions when I have broken down, one time I had so much rain that it's found its way into the fuel, and the motor stopped running because of water in the gas. So I had to get that figured out in Auburn. One time on the way down, unfortunately the left front wheel separated from the car on I-80 because the wheel bearing failed. And so that was really hairy because the speed limit may be 65, everybody's driving about 80 on Interstate 80. I think they're confused with the number of the highway. But, so these kind of things have happened, and one way or the other, they always have worked out. I mean, maybe there's some kind of angel looking over me. I hope if that's the case, it continues on because I may have had more than 9 lives already.
Well, let's take a look at some of these cars because they are absolutely fantastic. This blue Packard from 1912 just going up the hill. And you can see this is what we've got out on track. But this was an era, I mean, earlier than your era of the Jaguar, but obviously these are what we call the ragtime races. They've been going since, what, 2018, and they basically sell themselves as 100-year-old cars, and they really are truly examples of how it was back in the day, in the early days of when the Indy 500 was beginning, and I think that was 1911, and Ray Haroon inventing the first ever mirror, but these cars didn't have those, and that's why there was two reasons to have the passenger. It wasn't for fun. It was because basically one had to start with the crank, and the other would be the spotter, effectively.
Well, and then some of these cars, they have to have fuel pressure manually built up. So you'll see some of them with an actual hand pump. But yeah, this was a glorious era of the results of the Industrial Revolution. And as you're probably aware, during the same time frame, they're just pumping the fuel pressure. But there was also electric cars of that era. These electric cars are not a new thing necessarily.
I made that point yesterday. It is interesting that back in the day, electric cars were actually invented long time ago. Everybody thinks they're some new phenomena. So that's what he's doing. He's pumping the fuel, huh?
Now look at the competition. They're I mean, they're looking at each other. I don't know if they're snarling under that full face helmet or not.
Well, that's about the only modern part. That number 2 is a 2017 Ford Racer. Chris Helling at the wheel.
A 1917. You said a 2017. You're 100 years off there.
I was only 100 years off.
Yeah.
My accuracy's not good this morning. No, a 1917
But
Ford
think
Racer.
of the gentleman sports racer of this era. I mean, this is a type of event where they would have a soiree in the evening that was strictly black tie.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if they brought a steamer trunk with them to these events, how they could have all the change of clothing, but what
where do they pack it all?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
No, but these were the early and glory days in many ways of motor racing, and these guys were mavericks, weren't they? I mean, to do what they did, no safety belts, no safety at all, to be honest. And while we've got modern helmets on, they didn't.
Well,
they had
leather helmets, yeah. And they considered it much safer to actually not be secured to the vehicle. So if there was a shunt of some sort, the theory was they would be thrown from the vehicle, and that was their best choice. So, what does that tell you?
I know, it tells you everything.
Yeah.
And the truth is, these cars, there's the checkered flag, but with these cars, most people had never, if they were living in the wilds of the Midwest, had never traveled more than 30 miles because that wasn't possible. So these cars allowed people to actually go out, and they were production versions of what these guys now are racing, but it changed the world.
Well, this is not that far later than the time when if you were in a motor car in a congested area, you had to have somebody with a flag ahead of you warning the people that you're coming. I mean,
Yes, and we forget that horsepower that we still use today was what it was named after, because before these cars, it was just horses that got us around.
Right. Yeah, the Industrial Revolution brought an entirely different aspect of pollution. I mean, back prior to the turn of the century and around this time, there was so many horses in New York City and so much manure in New York City that there was really a serious pollution problem. And so look what we've done. The horses went away. We have the motor cars. Eventually, of course, that created some pollution problem.